is Guy from Vecino's Coffee Guy. Tomorrow we're having some company over, and I thought, you know, I want to make some cold brew nitro coffee. And I might as well show you what I'm doing. I'm going to make a real small batch, and I don't expect to even drink this all. It's a holiday, and we have guests coming over, and I want to offer cold brew, something a little bit different than you can get just anywhere. So I'm going to use a very small, what's called a cold toddy. And this is a container with a filter inside that's I believe it's felt, and a hole in the bottom that's stopped with a stopper. And we're going to put 14 ounces of coffee in here, and then we're going to fill it, and we're going to break the crust and agitate. We're going to stir it, and so that the coffee isn't just floating on top. Extraction we talk about is the hotter the water, 195 to 205 is the range that you want to extract hot coffee. But if it's cold, it just takes longer. And if you have an espresso machine, you have hot water under pressure, and you can do it in 25 seconds. So you have extraction from espresso, you have extraction from pour-over coffee and French press coffee and mocha pot, perk coffee, whatever. And then you have the extraction with cold, which is half a day, 12 hours maybe. And so that's what we're going to do. Now, some people, if they want a little more bright notes to the coffee, you take hot water and start it, and then quickly stop the extraction with the heat, and you put cold water on it, and it stops it. So you can get some bright notes out of cold brew as well. There's tricks to this thing that you can work with. But today we're going to just make a cold toddy, and we're going to use a small keg, and we're going to pressurize the keg with nitrogen. And then it's going to cascade much like a Guinness, because rather than a beer, most pilsners, ales, whatever, unless it's a stout, it's going to be pressurized with CO2. Well, this is going to be nitrogen, and it's going to cascade. The foam's going to be on the top, and it's going to cascade, and it's going to come up, and it's going to be a whole different thing. And nitrogen affects coffee in a more positive way than the CO2. So we're going to do nitro pressured coffee, and it's going to create a nice head with some foam. And so we're here to show you a little bit how to do that on a small scale. Now, you could cold brew this in any kind of container, let it sitting overnight, and then strain it out. So that's up to you. So I'm going to measure out, and what kind of coffee do you use? Well, you can use light or dark. You can use Central and South American coffees tend to be more bright and acidic. I'm going to use my espresso. It's a lighter roast. Some people say, well, I like dark roast. You can use dark roast. Dark roast, light roast. I talked to somebody yesterday that said we have the only cold brew that's light roast in town. And it's like, well, I guess maybe that is unique. But for me, I'm thinking I like light roast on just about everything. Maybe an Asian coffee is good for dark. But I'm going to take some coffee out. I'm going to measure it. And I'm going to put from grams to ounces, because I'm going to measure in ounces. And each cup gives me about 5 ounces. It's 10 ounces. And I'm going to use 14 ounces of coffee. There you go, just a hair over 14. And I'm going to grind this at, you're going to use a little bit coarser than I normally do for drip brew. So I'm going to use, you could set it at about French press if you like. And I'm going to grind this coffee. Okay, there I have it, 14 ounces. I'm going to dump this in. Now I have filtered water, and I'm going to pour some water in, and I'm going to move it around. I want to saturate the grounds evenly. And I'm going to take a spoon. You see the bubbles coming there? There's air in it. And they're still dry, and so I'm stirring it. And I'm going to fill it up to the top. And it's up to the top. And again, I'm going to take and do a little stir. You can see the crust. I'm going to push that down. And agitation is part of espresso that we want to consider, or part of the coffee brewing extraction that we want to consider. And I'm going to keep stirring because the grounds are going to float to the top. And actually, I've been learning lots of things about cold brew. Cold brew is the new rage, and I think when I went to Coffee Festival in Boston last year, I found that you can, there's a system that does a cold brew, and it will do it in 20 minutes and give you, I think, 5 gallons in 20 minutes. It's by Wilbur Curtis, and the secret is their agitation. They have a stir in there. And so you can shorten the brew cycle of cold brew by agitation, and that is stirring. And that's a part of extraction that you learn too, is agitation is important in extracting coffee. If it's not pressure from the espresso machine, it's pouring your kettle and bringing some agitation, or it's stirring in this case, or a French press. So let's consider the agitation part of the cold brew, and let's shorten that cycle just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to cover this with a plate. I want to keep dust out of it, and I'm going to let this set, 12, 16 hours, whatever you have time for. I'm going to do this later tonight and drain it, and I want to start the nitrogen into, it takes a while for the nitrogen to penetrate the liquid. And there's some secrets I'm going to give you about that tomorrow when we keg it and nitrogenate it. This is Guy from the Vecinos Coffee Guy. Hit the subscribe button and the bell, and every time we come up with a new video, you'll get a notification. And we enjoy being with you, and I enjoy teaching you what I have learned about coffee. Thanks.